Hello and welcome to the Jerusalem Post Election Arena. Today we have with us Isaac Herzog, the leader of the Zionist Union, candidate for Prime Minister. Thank you for being with us.
Hi, Gil.
Let's pretend this interview is happening a couple weeks after the election. You've already clearly won. You received 5 more seats than Likud, and the president has just asked you to form the government. Who do you call first?
Well, there are actually a few alternatives, and I think that the alternatives are good alternatives. Centrist parties who should be the center of their coalition.
Will you turn to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and ask him to join your government and be your foreign minister?
I don't rule out at all approaching Likud because to join my government, because I've said time and again that all parties, that I would say the Zionist parties in the center, can be part of my coalition. Actually, I said from Meretz all the way to Lieberman, but I think it comprises the Likud as well.
But could you really see Netanyahu as your foreign minister explaining your policies around the world?
I think that under such circumstances, the Likud will probably replace Netanyahu.
In which case, you would have somebody else from Likud together with you.
I've made it clear that I don't want to talk about coalitions the day after because we're all waiting to see the outcome and the results of the elections. In order for me to form a coalition, I need to be as big, as strong as possible.
Okay, so let's say you've done that. The election went your way and you have a coalition that will back your policies. How do you then go to the Palestinians and make peace?
I do not know what kind of Palestinian leadership, what's their mood, what will I find the day after. I may find a leadership that's still locked in their feeling that they're above board by taking unilateral steps. I think that's very dangerous. I think these steps are out of the question, and I would fight them. And therefore, what I want to do is tilt the balance by reigniting a process. The way to do it is by regional partners, such as Egypt and Jordan, who will be catalysts for moving on in the process and helping me and my Palestinian counterpart to build confidence-building measures towards a process.
In that process, how do you see the fate of Jerusalem in the end?
I'm not talking about Jerusalem at this stage. I think we're way, way backwards in terms of the relationship with the Palestinians. I think right now we're in a head-on clash, which is extremely bad for both parties. And therefore, I think, to start talking about the end core issues would be a bit obscure. I would not rule out starting the real process by discussing borders and security first.
Okay, so if not Jerusalem, our capital, what about the American capital? So in Washington, you have on the table an offer to go and speak at the AIPAC conference the same time that Netanyahu intends to speak in Congress. He is using...
It's not the same time, it's just the day before,
okay,
by the way.
So he's using that as an event to build up his leadership, and you're not taking advantage of an opportunity to build up your own leadership.
I am considering it, and considering it seriously. I will know in the coming week or two.
Okay, now you have been challenging Netanyahu to a debate pretty much everywhere. Yesterday, though, when Channel 2 said that all the candidates are invited, you said if Netanyahu is not coming, I'm not coming.
It was an ill report. What we've said was that I must challenge Netanyahu and debate Netanyahu. And as for the questions of whether with all other parties, I've said, provided there is an empty chair there for Netanyahu, that it's clear for us that he is the missing party to the whole debate. Now let's see what happens and what he is doing. Netanyahu's been avoiding me and avoiding the debate. He has been avoiding a true debate on the core issues of our life. He's been ignoring the issue of cost of living and housing and poverty and labor force, the ability to work and earn properly. He's been avoiding the pain of the elderly and single mothers. He hasn't done with all this. He's blaming everybody under the sun except himself. So what does he account for? What does exactly Netanyahu account for his 6 years of leadership? Nothing. In my mind, nothing.
So what if you try to give him an edge? challenge him to a debate in English, which he sees as his strong suit. I challenge all the candidates over here, just like Amit Segal did on Channel 2 last night, debate in English. There are candidates, Moshe Kachlon, Aryeh Deri, who probably would say no because of their level of English. Your English is fine.
Gil, my dear, I have no problem in debating Bibi in English or Hebrew or even Arabic, okay? Except Yiddish, which I'm not so good at.
Do you accept his signature issue in the campaign of having the next government last for 4 years, changing the system so we won't have elections so often?
He already forgot that agenda because it was just good for a moment. I think the problem with Netanyahu is his inability to work with partners. He doesn't know how to work in partnership. Whoever was his partner got bitten by him. And therefore, the house fell on our heads because of him and because of his partners. By the way, I think Lapid contributed as well to the collapse of that government at an early stage. And it's part of sickening relationships that have developed in our government. And you expect a government to work in a certain cohesiveness, in a certain dignified manner. And that hasn't been done, not by Netanyahu and not by his partners. And you know, when I saw it in the deepest sense of the word during Operation Protective Edge, you could see members of the security cabinet undermining the whole government and the prime minister.
Okay, so yes or no questions. Dividing Jerusalem?
I'm not there at all. I want a unified city.
Is Mahmoud Abbas a peace partner?
Mahmoud Abbas is the leader of the Palestinian Authority, and we have to work with him.
Public transportation on Shabbat?
Only in a very limited manner, preserving the unique nature of Shabbat to places of outing or, to places where people go out and have something to eat and enjoy, or to hospitals and emergency centers.
Stores open on Shabbat?
Not necessarily. I think we must preserve the unique nature of Shabbat. And it is my movement, the labor movement, who came forward and transformed the idea of Shabbat into something which is a resting day. And I don't want that Shabbat will become a day where the weakest employees work.
Civil marriage? Gay marriage?
Gay marriage we did support, and we have a bill on gay couplehood, absolutely. About civil marriage, again, it's a question whether we can bridge, and I have the ability to bridge between worlds, because this issue of inability to marry in Israel must be resolved.
And last but not least, Sundays being a day off for everyone in the country.
It's a wonderful idea. I think it needs to be negotiated with the Histadrut. Tzipi Livni and I see it as something of importance. I don't want to promise things that I won't deliver. That means it has to make a whole change about the length of the working day, including Friday. And we have to see whether the Israeli people are ready for it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Zionist Union leader Isaac Herzog for being here on the Jerusalem Post election arena.
Thank you.
And we will have more candidates coming up later on in this election campaign talking about the pressing issues of the day. Thank you for being with us.